America's two great pastimes collide on this podcast. It is baseball and making money. From the dog days of summer through the October Classic, Greg Bases Peterson's going to be free swinging at the betting board as he tries to hit a grand slam for your bankroll. Now here is GP.
Hello everyone and welcome into the Monday edition of MLB Overtime Betting. Greg Peterson broadcasting from the Azuñia Tequila Studios out here in Las Vegas. We've got another tremendous slate for you today as Mo Egger of the ESPN radio affiliate out there in Cincinnati, 1530. He's going to be joining me as we saw a big brawl breakout between the Reds and the Pirates yesterday. The bench is cleared. I don't know how many punches were thrown or anything like that, but we know that Yasiel Puig got ejected. Caused for a nice little bit of a brouhaha. I always like that. Get his takeaway on the NL Central and just get his thoughts on baseball in general because he's a gentleman that also does film work for ESPN nationally. In the final segment, I go through all 10 of today's baseball games. As we touch them all, I give you a side and total on every last one of them, along with a breakdown. But first, we have to dive into the Twitter mailbag.
So you have questions, and Greg may or may not have any insight into them, but let's dive into the Twitter mailbag.
This one was fired into me by @HitsForHundos. His name is Joseph, and he tweets @unit_81. Apologies for all the haters. Greg, would you discuss what goes into your decisions for MLB totals? And this is a tremendous question because there's a lot of factors that go in there. I feel like the biggest ones are just the pitchers on the mound in general. You have to take a look at your starting pitchers, and then you have to take a look at the bullpens that go along with them. Something that you'll notice is that these teams with good starting pitching, they're typically going to be playing a lot of unders. We're noticing it with the Tampa Bay Rays. They don't necessarily have a lineup that rakes. They won their last game against the San Francisco Giants yesterday by a count of 3-0, but they just have a bunch of guys that they're able to rely upon for good, solid innings. We're seeing it with the Oakland A's whenever they get into some nitty-gritty games. Their bullpen has been lights out. Now, they played a big over yesterday against the Houston Astros. They lose that game by a count of 9-8, but that's because Mike Fiers gives up 6 runs in the first 2 innings. When they got to the relief pitching, sans that last at-bat in which they had the bases loaded and there was a walk on 4 pitches that walked in the winning run, which you cannot have in any capacity. You have to make a batter work for that hit. You have to make them put the ball in play in some way, shape, or form in that situation. But past that, they've actually been doing pretty good. So the big thing is those starting pitchers, like when you see Homer Bailey on the mound for the Kansas City Royals and you see some sort of a non-hairbrained total, you have to take a look at that under. And then I also think that mitigating juice is big as well, because something that we're noticing with these totals out there in baseball, not a lot of them are falling on that exact number. They're either just blowing past these totals or they're staying way under. If you have a total of 7, you got to think that there's going to be either more than 9 runs scored or less than 5, because you're not seeing too many totals of like 7, 7.5 where the game is like 5-3 or 4-3 or something like that. You're noticing more like 12-5 or 3-0. That's just the way it's been in baseball this year. So I do think that that's really big. Obviously, you have to take a look at the lineups as well. There are some guys that platoon. I noticed that G-Man Choi is sometimes in the lineup for the Tampa Bay Rays. Sometimes he's not. He's hitting 370. I notice whenever he's in the lineup, it feels like that Tampa Bay Rays lineup is a little bit better. There are some teams that hit righties a little bit better than lefties. There are others that hit lefties a little bit better than righties. That is also another thing that depends on the pitching as well. So that's always something to take a look at. And then in regards to bullpens, you want to take a look at what guys have been throwing the past couple days, what guys are available and not available. And I also had someone ask me about injury information as well and where I find that and bullpen availability. And that I find through just basic Twitter searches. I just take a look at some of these team accounts because typically the lineups for these teams will be announced hours in advance on Twitter in regards to the guys that are playing in the field. And then for pitchers, the manager will typically tell you after a game, like if it's a night game, he'll say in his post-game presser that so-and-so is going to be available tomorrow, so-and-so is going to get the day off, something like that. You always want to pay attention to that. You want to pay attention to these beat writers that follow along with these teams. And unlike in college basketball, there's plenty of people that follow the Oakland A's. There are plenty of people that follow the Tampa Bay Rays, Milwaukee Brewers, New York Yankees, New York Mets. It doesn't matter what market you're in. You're going to have a whole lot of people tweeting out that a reliever like Joakim Soria or something like that is going to get a day off or something like that. So it's something that you really do want to pay attention to. And then I got another question in regards to my baseball camping. This comes from at KShay001, goes by the name KShay. I know that you hate taking big money line favorites. At what point do you think it's too high? 175 with a question mark, and that was minus 175, obviously, laying $175 to win 100. My philosophy with baseball is you want to try to mitigate juice as much as possible. I like to take plus prices and everything like that, but at the same time, you can't be afraid of laying the juice if you see value. If you think that a team should be a $3 favorite and you're seeing them at like minus 200, there's value there and you've got to bet it. It's one of those things where it's all about trying to find the best value and trying to come out ahead for the season. It's all about making winning bets in the long term, because sometimes you're going to make a bet where you wind up laying $2 with a team that you thought should have been valued at $3, and you know what? Sometimes that bet is going to lose. You can't be discouraged by those couple of results that don't necessarily go your way. You just have to continue to search for value. You just have to continue to believe in your handicapping. And if you're just noticing that in general you're having some success after a long period of time, just stick with it, because there's obviously going to be some days in baseball handicapping where you are straight fire, and there are other days in baseball handicapping where you can't pick your nose. It is just the way that this racket goes. It's all about long-term success, and it's all about just trying to find value. Whether you're finding value at plus $3 or you're finding value at laying $2, it doesn't matter. It's all about making bets that you think are going to make you money, both in the short term and long term. So those are the questions I got on Twitter. Now we've got to take a look back at Sunday's results.
What happened yesterday? Let's go around the bases and find out.
How about the New York Yankees exploding for 15 runs on the Baltimore Orioles? It appears as though the Baltimore Orioles' hot streak is over, as the Yankees were able to sweep this series, and they were playing a little bit of home run derby, especially Gary Sanchez, who had three home runs in this game. Clint Frazier went deep twice. Gleyber Torres went deep. Austin Romine went deep. Heck, I think that the ball boy of the New York Yankees went deep. This is a team that has been so banged up, and yet they were able to generate 15 runs. Got to give them a lot of credit. They're going to be an underdog against the Astros. I'll have a play on that and touch them all, but gotta like what you're seeing there. The Philadelphia Phillies off to a very good start so far this year. They win their game against the Minnesota Twins by kind of 2-1. The difference in this one being Rhys Hoskins. He goes deep for his third home run of the year, and the middle of this lineup is just absolutely scary. Gene Segura, Bryce Harper, and Rhys Hoskins all hitting above 320, and you gotta like what you're seeing out of Zach Eflin as well. He has a 0.75 ERA through 2 starts, gave up 1 earned run in 7 innings in this one. The lone run that he gave up was a solo shot to Max Kepler. That was his third of the year. And the Minnesota Twins, even though they're 5-3, not necessarily having the best offensive output. Speaking of teams that don't necessarily have the best offensive output, Cleveland Indians, they're a team that you've got to look at playing a lot of unders with. They wind up knocking off the Toronto Blue Jays 3-1. Mike Clevenger went only 5 innings at 75 pitches. You got to think that they're trying to ramp him up and save him a little bit, but he was sensational in those 5 innings. 10 strikeouts, gave up just 1 hit and 1 walk. He was great. The Indians are still a little bit banged up with Lindor and company out of the lineup, but Carlos Santana in the middle of the lineup is right now hitting .419. And what I noticed is that Jake Bauers, Jose Ramirez, and Leonis Martin all hitting below 200, along with Kevin Plawecki. The bats of the Indians not necessarily getting going, but they faced off against a Toronto Blue Jays team that as a whole currently batting under 200 themselves. You got to be looking at their totals under. And Marcus Stroman looked okay in this game. He went 6 innings, gave up 3 runs, had 6 strikeouts, just 1 walk. I feel like he's starting to find himself a little bit more, and I do like what I'm seeing out of Ken Giles in the bullpen. He has yet to give up a run so far this year for the Blue Jays. They're a team that you probably want to look at with some unders. You got to be looking at Mets overs. I've been saying this for a while now. They wind up losing to the Washington Nationals 12-9 as both these teams put on a hitting display. Michael Conforto hit a home run in the 9th, his second. Pete Alonso has been terrific for this team. He had his 3rd home run of the year. Even though Robinson Cano hasn't necessarily been connecting too much, he's hitting just 205. This is a completely revamped lineup that is doing a very good job of raking. Heck, Keon Broxton is hitting above 300. Then for the Washington Nationals, even without Trey Turner, they're getting the job done on offense, and Anthony Rendon is a big reason why he hit his 4th home run of the year in this game. Went 3 for 3 at the dish. He also drew 2 walks. Adam Eaton at the top of the lineup is hitting 275. Juan Soto is right now hitting 267 as well, and they did a great job of being able to draw walks. 12 walks by the Mets in this game, as both these teams also have putrid bullpens. So you want to take note of that as well. The Atlanta Braves were able to get by the Miami Marlins by a count of 4-3. Sean Newcomb is always very confusing to figure out, to say the least. He went 7 strong innings in this game, but he wound up having a ball that bounced off of his glove that allowed the Marlins to score a couple runs out there in the early going of the game. And then the Marlins were able to tie it up in the 9th inning. You got to give them a little bit of credit. The Grandy man, Curtis Granderson, had a home run in this one. It was his second. He was able to belt that one in the ninth inning, but the Braves were able to get the bases loaded, and they were able to cash in this one. Freddie Freeman, it is first home run of the year. Dansby Swanson went deep as well. And you got to like what you're seeing out of some of the bats in this Atlanta Braves lineup. Ozzie Albies is hitting 400. Freddie Freeman above 400 as well. Nick Markakis is coming around. Dansby Swanson hitting nearly 350 as well. And Ronald Acuna Jr. hitting only a $129, but you got to think that he's going to get it going at some point. The Reds, we're going to be talking about with Mo Egger a little bit later. They got in a fight, and they wound up actually igniting their offense in the process. They scored 5 runs. Problem is, the Pittsburgh Pirates scored 7 themselves. Josh Bell hit his second home run of the year. Adam Frazier was able to go deep for his first home run of the year. And the Pirates' bats seem to be waking up. Jung-Ho Kang, after a little bit of a rough start this year, he's batting just a $154, but you got to like what you're seeing out of Melky Cabrera. Chris Archer, once again, needed 100 pitches to get through 6 innings. He gave up 3 runs. I just find him to be a pitcher that's a little bit confusing to back because he has great stuff. And I'm going to get into this a little bit later as well, but it just feels like he tries to strike everyone out, and it's just one of those things where I feel like he's not living up to his full potential. Dan Diedrich, though, he was living up to his potential in this game. He had 2 dingers for the Cincinnati Reds in a day in which Joey Votto had the day off. Hopefully that gets the Reds going. The Milwaukee Brewers appear to be the class of the NL Central right now, though, as the Cubs fall to 2-7. Their bullpen actually pitched better in this game. They went 4 innings, and they did not give up a run, but Kyle Hendricks, who was one of the worst bet-on pitchers last year, gave up 4 runs in 4 innings. He had 1 walk, but he gave up 8 hits, including a home run, and that dinger was hit by Christian Yelich, his 5th of the year. He now has 13 RBI. He's been doing a great job, and the Brewers actually have some struggling bats. Travis Shaw, Mike Moustakas, and Jesus Aguilar all hitting below 200 right now. Orlando Arcia is just above the Mendoza line as well. But Lorenzo Cain, Christian Yelich, and Ryan Braun, who had the day off in this one, really getting the job done. And Zach Davies is a guy that you got to look to bet on as well. Won 5.2 innings, gave up 2 runs, but none of which were earned. There was an error by Eric Thames that allowed the Cubs to be able to score their only runs of the game. And Josh Hader still getting the job done. He went 2.2 innings. He had 3 Ks, was just flat out nasty for this Brewers team. I mentioned the Astros game a little bit earlier. Their offense appears to be getting online. They were able to touch up Mike Fiers for 5 runs in the first inning, and they were able to make a comeback to win this game by a count of 9-8. Got to be very concerned about the bullpen of the Houston Astros, though. They wound up getting 5 innings out of Brad Peacock, but he was really getting roughed up as he gave up 2 runs in the first, 2 runs in the second, gave up a run in the fourth. Not really a good pitching staff for the Houston Astros in general. Rondon gave up a run, and then you had James come in, and he gave up 2 as well. So that's not necessarily a redeeming quality, but Jose Altuve, Alex Bregman, Michael Brantley all had big games in this one, along with Diaz at the first base spot. So gotta like to see that for the Houston Astros. And then for the Oakland A's, they were able to get quite a few deep balls. Robbie Grossman was able to go yard, and then Chad Pinder, who had been off to a really slow start to the season, he had 2 hits and he had 3 RBI, including a dinger as well. So you like to see that if you're an Oakland A's fan. The Mariners continue to rake. They won 12-5. They've been playing nearly everything over so far this year, and Daniel Vogelbach providing something at the DH spot. He had 2 home runs in this game, his 3rd and 4th of the year. Edwin Encarnacion is back in the lineup. He had a dinger as well. And for the Chicago White Sox, Ivan Nova just got shelled. He gave up 7 runs in 2.1 innings. It's just not good. And then the White Sox bullpen from there gives up 5 runs. The White Sox bullpen is something that you just cannot back. And with runners in scoring position, the White Sox went 1 for 9. They've got some guys that are hitting really well. Tim Anderson is hitting .560. I believe he leads the league in that regard. Yohan Moncada hitting .353 with some power. Jose Abreu has went deep 3 times, but Wellington Castillo, Rondon at the second base spot, Yonder Alonso, Eloy Jimenez, Adam Engel, the list goes on and on. They're feast or famine at the plate right now, and that's putting it politely. The Rays wound up shutting out the Giants, as I mentioned a little bit earlier, 3-0. And the Diamondbacks, who had been white hot at the plate, they wound up getting completely shut out by the Boston Red Sox, who went essentially with the opener of Hector Velasquez. He went 3 innings, gave up 1 hit, 3 Ks, and then Workman, Walden, Barnes, and Brazier from there were able to close it out as the Arizona Diamondbacks were held to just 3 hits in this game. You got to give the Boston Red Sox a little bit of credit for getting up off the mat. They are only 3-8 so far this year, and that lone run came from Mitch Moreland, his 3rd of the year. He seems to be a stabilizing force for this team. JD Martinez has been hitting, but you got to think that the likes of Mookie Betts, Jackie Bradley Jr., and Nunez are going to be coming around. And Mookie Betts, by the way, had the day off in this one as well. So that is of note. And it seems like Andrew Benintendi getting things righted as well. And the LA Angels finally got some offense going as well, as they were able to knock off the Texas Rangers by a count of 7-2. You cannot be betting on Shelby Miller at this point. He might be the worst pitcher in baseball. In 2 innings, he gives up 4 runs, had 3 walks. I believe that he beaned Zach Cozart with the bases loaded as well. I mean, it's absolutely ridiculous. But with the LA Angels as well, they've got a bunch of guys that are not hitting. Justin Bauer, Tommy La Stella, and Drelton Simmons, Zach Cozart, and Peter Borges are all hitting below 180 right now. And Cozart and Borges both hitting below 060. Yeah, that's bad. I will say Daniel Fletcher doing a good job of being able to get on base. He's hitting above 300, and Mike Trout was able to hit a home run in this one, his 5th. You have to also like that Brandon Goodwin went deep. He's hitting nearly 400, and he had a dinger in this one. But, man, the Angels, they are just not getting the job done. And then how about the Dodgers? They were able to just completely dismantle the Colorado Rockies 12-6. You take a look at the Dodgers. Cody Bellinger went deep for his 7th home run in the last 10 games. That ties a record that is held by Trevor Story and Alex Rodriguez for the most home runs in 10 games in a season. He has been just white hot for the team. A.J. Pollock actually went 0 for 5. That was a little bit of a surprise, but Justin Turner has gotten his bat righted. Corey Seager, who was off to a little bit of a rough start to the year, he had multiple hits for the team. Max Muncy was able to pinch in, and he was able to get a hit as well. And this is a Dodgers team that just has so much firepower. They also have a little bit of a rough bullpen, so things have not necessarily been going well in that regard, but you got to like that Jock Peterson at the top of the lineup has been able to drive in some runs as well. He's already got on the year 6 RBI. Kike Hernandez has been doing a great job for this team. And Julio Arias gave up 3 runs in 3.2 innings. He's not a pitcher that I'm going to be looking to back anytime soon. I do like what they're getting out of a couple of their bullpen guys for the Dodgers. Oh, Caleb Ferguson is a guy that you can put your chips in the middle with. I like the way that he's been pitching, but guys like Kelly and Yimi Garcia, just not very good. And then for the Colorado Rockies, Chad Bettis gives up 5 runs in 2.2 innings. These starters outside of Kyle Freeland and Herman Marquez just seem to be not getting the job done so far this year, to say the least. They actually do have a couple decent relievers. I do like the way that they're able to bring in Brian Shaw. He's been very good for this team. You got to think that Harrison Musgrove is going to be getting on track a little bit as well, but right now the Colorado Rockies themselves have a little bit of rough hitting. Trevor Story's hitting only 222. You had to like that Nolan Arenado had 3 hits in this game, but with that said, there's just a big divide between the guys that are hitting and the guys that are not for the Colorado Rockies as they drop to 3-7. Those were my takeaways from baseball on Sunday, and now we've got to turn the page forward to the weekday, and helping me do so is Mo Egger, as we're going to recap that big fight between the Pirates and the Reds, and we're going to talk a little bit of NL Central Baseball. That is coming up next right here on MLB Overtime Betting.
Greg is going to the bullpen as he makes a call to the Azuña hotline.
And we're back here in the Azuña Tequila Studios for MLB Overtime Betting. Greg Peterson broadcasting from the Azuña Tequila Studios, as we've got a very special guest joining us today. You can follow him on Twitter at MoEgger1530. He works for the Cincinnati affiliate out there in Cincinnati for ESPN, and then he does some tremendous work doing some film work on ESPN radio as well from time to time. You can catch him there. Does a tremendous show out there. And Mo, how are you doing on this fine day?
I'm good. What's going on?
Not too much. Apparently there's a lot going on with the Cincinnati Reds, though, as on Sunday they wind up losing that game to the Pittsburgh Pirates by a count of 7-5. But more interestingly, we saw a big giant brawl that occurred. Yasiel Puig was ejected. I think that there were a couple other guys that were also ejected. I think there were 5 in total. What did you make out of this? Because I thought it was so interesting, because we've seen the Cincinnati Reds really struggle with the bats, but it actually felt like this sort of charged them up a little bit because they were able to score 5 runs in this game.
Yeah, unfortunately not enough to win, but what happened was early in the game, Derek Dietrich hit a very long home run to left center field, and he stood there and admired it. And I mean, I'm talking like he stood there and you could have counted to 3 before he even thought about running to first base. And so the next time he came up, the pitcher, Chris Archer, tried to throw behind him, tried to throw at him, threw behind him, and the umpire behind the plate decided to issue a warning. That didn't sit well with David Bell, the Reds manager, who I think at least wanted a chance to have his pitcher retaliate without getting thrown out of the game. And it just kind of spilled over from there. And the big takeaway, I think, would be, number one, David Bell charging out of the dugout. Number two, Yasiel Puig wanted to fight someone. He was ultimately kicked out of the game. He had a number of his teammates trying to hold him back, including their catcher, Tucker Barnhart, who was doing his Jeff Van Gundy impersonation from the playoffs in the NBA 20 years ago. And I think it's going to be interesting. The Reds and Pirates, obviously, in the National League Central, they play a bunch. They have 4 more series against each other. It's going to be interesting to see what happens the next time these two teams play. Unfortunately, it couldn't inspire the Reds to go get a win. It was at least interesting, and you wonder if maybe long-term it can provide a spark. But, yeah, it was when Dietrich hit the home run and stood there and watched it, I thought to myself, the next time he comes up, he might get one in his back. And I give Archer credit for not hitting the next guy, for not hitting somebody else. He went right back after Derek Dietrich, who kind of stood there like he understood what was going to happen. And then, again, it kind of spilled over from there, and it's going to be interesting to see what happens between these two teams moving forward.
I agree with you, and obviously Chris Archer was the starter in this game. He's a guy that I've actually been a little bit bearish on. I think that he's got tremendous stuff. I think that he does a great job as a pitcher and everything like that, but I always feel like he just tries to strike the world out, and he always jacks up his pitch count, which allows him to only go 5 innings when he's got so much potential to be able to be a guy that's able to go 6, 7, even 8 innings if he really just did a little bit of a better job of just trying to get outs in general instead of just trying to strike out all 27 guys. What have you really made of Chris Archer? Because I felt like he handled himself very well in this situation and everything like that. I think he's very well respected around the league. And I feel like he's an up-and-coming pitcher, but he just hasn't put it all together yet.
No, you're right about that. I mean, he strikes me as the profile of the kind of guy the Reds should be going after, a guy that has some upside, a guy that you can maybe get a little bit on the cheap. But you're right about that. I think that got him into trouble. It just sort of felt to me like he was trying to strike everybody out, maybe taking advantage of the fact that Joey Votto wasn't in the starting lineup. His offense helped him out. There's no doubt about that. Fortunately for the Pirates, his opposite number, Anthony DeSclafani, did not fare very well. Couldn't keep the ball in the ballpark, couldn't hold on to an early lead, and Pirates finish off the 4-game sweep.
We've got Mo Egger joining me right here on MLB Overtime Betting. Does terrific work for the ESPN affiliate out there in Cincinnati. Sometimes does some fill-in work nationally as well, and he's joining me right now. And I've been talking about this a little bit in the offset, but the Cincinnati Reds, their bats have just been ice cold so far this year. I feel like the 5 runs that they scored against the Pirates on Sunday are exactly what they needed. You mentioned the Dietrich home run. Obviously, admired it a little bit too long, but with that said, it was good to be able to see him at the very least get a home run. What do you make out of this lineup in general? Because I feel like the Reds have some good pitching. DeSclafani got a little bit roughed up on Sunday, but I like the upside of Luis Castillo. Taylor Mahle, he's a guy that I feel like has the pieces to be able to be a good top-of-the-line starter. I don't think he has quite the upside of a Luis Castillo, but I think that he's decent. And then I take a look at the Reds' bullpen. It's not one that is necessarily like the Tampa Bay Rays or anything like that, but I feel like the Reds' bullpen is pretty decent as well.
Yeah, I think the bullpen should be a strength of this team. I think when you look at this club overall, what they've done so far has kind of been the inverse of what you would expect. We expect this team to hit. We don't expect their starting pitching to be great. We expect their bullpen to be pretty good. In fact, the starting pitching has been okay. They've gotten a good start from Sonny Gray. Luis Castillo's made 2 really good starts. You mentioned Tyler Mahle the other day. Pitched very, very well against the Pirates. Unfortunately, this team's offense has just been dormant, and I think everybody expects this team collectively to hit, but it's not going to do any good if you're buried by the time they do hit. And this team last season ended up having a pretty good offense. The problem was the first 3 weeks of the season, they were so terrible that they got off to a 3-18 start that by the time they were hitting, they were basically punted from any kind of serious contention. And I fear that that's going to happen with this team this year. 1-8. They've had some really well-pitched games. They held the Milwaukee Brewers to 9 runs in 3 games at Great American Ballpark. Didn't win any of them. They've gotten a number of quality starts. Didn't win any of those games. The bullpen hasn't helped. Everybody in that pen has kind of taken their turn being a problem. I think across the course of the season, that bullpen is going to be okay. I think across the course of the season, this offense is going to be okay. I worry a little bit about the starting pitching, especially because they've wasted so many good starts here at the beginning of the year that they're really going to be behind the 8 ball once we get into the real teeth of the season.
I agree with you. This just feels so reminiscent of last year because I remember during the summer, the Reds were playing some 500 baseball after they got off to that really slow start. They were actually pretty good after that, but it was just having that 3-18 start that sunk them last year. This year, the team is 1-8, as we do have Mo Egger joining me right here on the podcast. And what do you make out of the NL Central in general? Because right now, I feel like it's a very weird division. The Milwaukee Brewers were able to get a series win over the Cubs in what they always call Wrigley Field North out there with the Milwaukee Brewers, since the Cubs fans always jam-pack that stadium. And it just feels like the Cubs are right now digging themselves a hole that maybe they can't necessarily completely climb out of. Starting off 2-7, obviously not ideal for this team.
No, I think the one thing you can cling to if you're a Cubs fan is that for the most part they've hit. The problem is their bullpen has just been terrible, and their defense has also been quite bad. I expect their bullpen to kind of correct itself, and I think this team is going to hit. I think the Brewers are the class of the division, and you've seen that here the first week and a half. They won the division last year. I think people who are casual fans really don't understand how good that team is. Up and down, there's not a lot of weaknesses. There's not a lot of huge names. Obviously, Christian Yelich is, but their lineup top to bottom is really, really good. They have a deep bench. I think when healthy, their bullpen is one of the more enviable pens in baseball, and their starting pitching is just good enough. I think if you're the St. Louis Cardinals, they're going to score runs, and they have a good pen. Obviously, getting Andrew Miller this offseason, I think, was a huge move. I think it was the biggest move in the National League Central. You worry about the starting pitching. The Cubs are going to hit, and they've hit so far this year. I do think if you're a Cubs fan, you're kind of going back to this offseason wondering why didn't they make any roster upgrades whatsoever? And you kind of think that maybe that might come back to haunt them. And they're just playing from such a deficit because Milwaukee's been so good. I think the Brewers are the class of this division. I think it's going to be a great 3-team race. But ultimately, by the end of September, I think Milwaukee's going to win the National League Central again.
I agree with you, and you're speaking to a gentleman that was born and raised out there in the state of Wisconsin, so I obviously love hearing that, but something that I've noticed in baseball in general so far this year, and we've been talking about bullpens with the Chicago Cubs and everything like that, feels like bullpens in general have been awful in baseball so far this year, because you notice a lot of these starters, they seem to be going 5-6 innings, they're giving their team a quality outing, giving up a run or two, and then you have these bullpens coming in, and they just completely gas can the game. And I feel like whoever has the best bullpen should be able to win so many of these divisions, which is why I think the Tampa Bay Rays are a contender out there in the American League East. It's why we're seeing the Milwaukee Brewers really stepping up and being able to have a good go of it early on in the year in the NL Central. I feel like bullpens are right now reigning supreme in baseball.
Yes, in large part because, number one, scoring is down. And when scoring is down, games are going to be closer. And number two, starters don't go as deep into games as they have in the past. So it puts a premium on not just having, one or two quality relievers at the end of games, but guys that can come in earlier in games in the 6th or 7th inning and get key outs. I think with the way the game is played nowadays, there's such an over-reliance on home runs. If you're not getting home runs, you're not scoring, which means runs are really at a premium. Games are going to be lower scoring. And early in the season here across the sport, I think you've seen a lot of low-scoring games. That really puts a premium on your bench, and it puts a premium on your bullpen. And I think you've seen that certainly in the National League Central.
And once again, we're seeing strikeouts up for, I think it's like the 12th straight year now. I forget exactly how many straight years strikeouts are up, but I'm noticing like a strikeout rate of 25%. I feel like the shift is obviously leading to it a little bit, but why is it that some of these guys just don't go to the opposite field? Because I feel like in baseball today, it should be easier than ever to be able to just get cheap hits and everything like that. But instead, we see guys go all or nothing, and it's something that just really drives me crazy in baseball.
I've asked this question to a number of former players who say that the ability to hit to all fields is something that's taught at an age that precludes getting to the major leagues. If you are a great opposite field hitter, or if you're a really good hitter to all fields, that's a skill that was probably learned before high school. I don't necessarily know specifically why that is collectively. I think it's kind of an anecdotal thing. What might make a guy like Joey Votto be able to, adjust what he's doing throughout the course of his career might not work for another player. But I think in large part, you're asking guys to break, 10, 12 years worth of habits at the highest level of the sport, against some of the best pitchers in the world, that really doesn't work. And so what I'd like to see, there's obviously been a lot of talk of banning shifts, things like that. I would like to see 8 to 10 year study of, as another generation of players get to Major League Baseball, how many of these guys are going to be better equipped to hit to the other field, to bunt down the third base line if there's nobody covering the bag, to make a team pay for a shift. You're not going to get that answer in a year. You're not going to get that answer in 2 or 3 years. You're going to get that answer over a period of time. And I'd be really interested in seeing if over a period of time, the sport kind of naturally corrects itself, where now defenses have to adjust and you can't necessarily put 3 guys on one side of second base.
I'm hoping so as well. And Mo, I know that we've had a very interesting week and a half so far of the MLB season. Obviously, we've seen some surprises with like the Seattle Mariners getting off to their start, the Chicago Cubs, the Boston Red Sox all getting off to cold starts. What has been the biggest takeaway for you so far this year?
I don't know that there's really been any one takeaway. We're sort of centrally focused on the Reds here being as bad as they've been. I try to not overreact to anything that I've seen over the first week and a half of the season. I think maybe the most illuminating thing might be, we talked about it before, how bad the Cubs have been, because you don't expect the Cubs to be as far behind the teams in this division as they are. And I think you can maybe say the same thing about the Boston Red Sox, as bad as they've been. But again, here in Cincinnati, where there were high hopes for this team to be relevant for the first time in 5 years, for them to get off to a 1-8 start, that's really, really sobering. So for me personally, that's been the biggest takeaway of the season.
Absolutely. And Mo, I'd like to close it up with this. Where can the good people out there hear your radio shows and follow you on social media and elsewhere?
I do an afternoon show on ESPN 1530 in Cincinnati. You can hear it at ESPN1530.com or on the iHeartRadio app. And you can follow me on Twitter at MoEgger1530.
Terrific. A big thank you to Mo Egger for joining me right here on the podcast, getting into a little bit of NL Central talk, getting into a little bit of general baseball talk, and coming up next, it is time to give you a side and total on every game on Monday's baseball betting board as we touch them all.
Hey, I'm Steve Heitner, the guy who uttered the famous phrase, "That's gold." And that's the inspiration of my new podcast, That's Gold with Steve Heitner. We talk sports, sports betting, movies, comedy, food, drink, Vegas, music, movies, and more. 5 days a week. Did I say movies twice? Look, guys love it, whether they're hip or worried about breaking a hip. Find us on Apple and Google Podcasts, as well as Spotify and Stitcher. That's Gold with me, Steve Heitner.
Welcome back to MLB Overtime. Greg is throwing a gem, so yeah, he better not blow it.
And a special thanks to Mo Egger for joining me right here on MLB Overtime Betting as we are back here in the Azuñia Tequila Studios. And now that we got enlightened a little bit on the world of baseball, especially the NL Central, it's time for me to give you a side and total on every game on today's betting board as we touch them all.
If a game is listed on the betting board, Greg has a side and a total on it, so it is time to touch them all.
Any changes that are made to these plays are going to be noted on my Twitter page at @unit_81. A lot of these plays are locked in. Some of these plays are still hanging out there in the balance. Those will be updated on my Twitter page as well, especially the total on this first game as we go in rotation order. 951, 952. The Pittsburgh Pirates are in Chicago to face off against the Cubbies. John Lester goes for the Cubs. Jamison Taillon goes for the Pittsburgh Pirates. Currently, because the game is in Wrigley and people are unsure of how the wind will be blowing, there is no total. So total, whether you look offshore, whether you look in Vegas, there's just nothing for you. But if you want to back the Pittsburgh Pirates in this spot, you're getting between plus 107 and plus 115. Meanwhile, across Vegas, the Cubs are between minus 120 and minus 125. I do like the way that Jamison Taillon has pitched the past year and a half, and John Lester is one of those guys I feel like is a solid pitcher, but his fielding independent and all those advanced metrics show that he's due for some regression after he was so good last year. I think that the Pirates are going to be able to hit him and hit him hard, and we saw in that series against the Reds, the Pirates really be able to get going. I know that this is a team that's a little bit banged up. Gregory Polanco and Corey Dickerson are both on the 10-day injured list, but what you do have is Josh Bell being able to rake for this team. He's batting over 300. He's got a pair of dingers. Adam Frazier at the top of the lineup has been doing a great job. And for the Chicago Cubs, they've got a bunch of guys that are mashing themselves. They only had 2 runs in their most recent game against the Milwaukee Brewers, but past that for the year, they've been doing a really good job of being able to hit. Ben Zobrist at the top of the lineup is hitting nearly 350. Anthony Rizzo is off to a little bit of a rough start along with Chris Bryant. Both these guys hitting in the 230s, but Javi Baez has some good power. Got like what Wilson Contreras and Daniel Descalso have been doing towards the bottom of the lineup, and Jason Hayward has been able to hit a couple home runs himself. Meanwhile, for the Pirates, you don't necessarily have that pop, but I do feel like Sterling Marte is starting to get online with this team a little bit more as well. You have to also be encouraged that Melky Cabrera is hitting nearly 400 as well. It's going to be very interesting to see where this total opens up, but I do feel like the Pittsburgh Pirates have by far the better bullpen in this spot. Looks like Xavier Cedeno just went off the 10-day injured list for the Cubs. That'll certainly help them out, but they're still without Brandon Morrow and Mike Montgomery. And let's face it, I just think that the Cubs in general just need to really revamp that bullpen, and I think the Pirates are going to be able to get to Lester in this spot. So I'm going to be taking the Pittsburgh Pirates, and I've already locked in that plus price. As of right now, no play on the total because right now there is no total listed, so that'll be up on my Twitter page in the morning. 9:53, 9:54 on the betting rotation. It is the Philadelphia Phillies playing host to the Washington Nationals. Anibal Sanchez goes for the Washington Nationals. Vince Velasquez goes for the Philadelphia Phillies. If you like the Phillies, you're going to be laying between minus 132 and minus 135. Meanwhile, if you want to take a shot on the Nats, you're getting between plus 117 and plus 125. Total in this one I am seeing is 9 across the board. The over is between minus 115 and minus 120 juice. The under is between even money and minus 105. This is a spot in which you actually have to look at the under a little bit more. I think that the Philadelphia Phillies actually have something going with the bullpen. I thought that it was very interesting to hear what Ryan Spader had to say about the Phillies bullpen a couple days ago, and I think it's all right. You've got a couple arms out there for the Phillies bullpen that aren't necessarily great, but all in all, it's actually not a bad unit. I'm right now trying to see where this number is going because I'm noticing a little bit of money coming in on the over, so right now I'm in wait-and-see mode, seeing if this can get up to 9.5, but with that said, I've already locked in the Phillies. I absolutely love the way this team is playing so far this year. They're off to a white-hot 6-2 start, and you can tell that all the additions are really starting to make sense for this team. JT Realmuto has been a little bit rough with the bat so far this year. He hasn't gotten things going, but Rhys Hoskins has 3 home runs and 13 RBI. Bryce Harper has 3 dingers already. He's hitting nearly 400. He's been sensational. Andrew McCutchen doing a great job of hitting along with Gene Segura at the top of the lineup. And then you've got Maikel Franco, who's gotten off to a nice start at the bottom of the lineup as well. And then you take a look at the other side for the Washington Nationals. Anthony Rendon has been terrific. 4 home runs, 9 RBI. He's hitting over 400. But they do have Trey Turner currently out of the lineup along with Michael A. Taylor. That's not helping the team. Matt Adams is day today, so this is a Washington National team that's a little bit banged up. We saw them have a 12-run outburst against the New York Mets on Sunday. I don't think that that's going to be quite the case once again. Juan Soto has been doing a nice job in the middle of the lineup. Howie Kendricks has been doing a decent job of getting on base along with Adam Eaton at the top of the lineup. They haven't necessarily been great. They haven't necessarily been awful, but I think that Defoe at the bottom of the lineup has some question marks as well. I think that the Phillies should be able to win this game by a count of 5-3. So wound up taking the Phillies at minus 130. I see that it's already ticked up to minus 135 in a lot of spots, so was able to lock that one in. But as of right now, in wait-and-see mode on this under. 9:55, 9:56 on the betting rotation. The LA Dodgers head to St. Louis to face off against the Cardinals. Miles Mikolas goes for the St. Louis Cardinals. Hyun Jin Ryu for the LA Dodgers. If you like the Dodgers, you're going to be laying between minus 123 and minus 124. If you want to take a shot on the Cardinals, you're getting between plus 108 and plus 114. Total I'm seeing is 8 across the board, but the juice is really shaded in various ways. If you like the over and under, in some spots it's minus 110 both ways. In other spots, the over is as high as minus 120 juice. Obviously, a little bit of money coming in on the over, and for good reason. I've already locked in this over at a little bit more favorable juice, and I'm going to be on the LA Dodgers in this spot as well. I've already locked in the LA Dodgers as a slight favorite in this game. The St. Louis Cardinals up to a 4-5 start, and they were able to have a nice win against the San Diego Padres yesterday. Gotta like the way that Paul Goldschmidt has gotten the bat going in regards to power. 5 home run and 9 RBI already this year, but he's only batting 200. He's been a little bit all or nothing to begin the year. Colton Wong has really been the guy that's been hitting for average. He's hitting 433, and it feels like they're starting to get Yadier Molina going, but for the Dodgers. You've got so many white-hot bats right now. Going into the Sunday night game against the Colorado Rockies, Cody Bellinger had 6 home runs and 17 RBI. I know that Justin Turner had been slumping a little bit, but you still got his bat. You know that he's going to be able to hit eventually, and you know that Seager is going to turn things around for this team as well. A.J. Pollock has been doing a nice job ever since being picked up from the Diamondbacks. Verdugo, whenever he's been in the lineup, has been productive. Austin Barnes is hitting nearly 400. There's just so many weapons for this Dodgers team, and Mikolas has not necessarily been getting off to the best of starts this year. Last year, guy was absolutely lights out. This year, he's currently 0-1 with a 7.2 ERA. I feel like he's coming back to earth a little bit. And Hyun-Jin Ryu, I feel like is a very underrated starter. He's been banged up throughout his career, but he's done terrific work whenever he's been healthy. The Dodgers, as we know, has a little bit of a rough bullpen, but I think that they're going to be able to get to Mikolas. I think that this total goes over, and I think the Dodgers are able to win this game. So already locked in the Dodgers and the over as plays in that game. 9:57, 9:58 on the betting rotation. It is the Atlanta Braves in Colorado to face off against the Rockies. Kyle Freeland goes on the mound for the Rockies, and you've got Julio Teheran going for the Atlanta Braves. That is Spanish for not a good start. The total on this one I am seeing is 10.5. The under is minus 115 in every single shop around Vegas on that 10.5. The over is minus 105. And if you like the Colorado Rockies, you're going to wind up laying between minus 135 and minus 138. If you want to take a shot with the Braves, you're going to be getting between plus 123 and plus 128. Teheran is just a guy that I cannot back. Throughout his career in the month of April, he just has not gotten off to good starts. He just doesn't leave too many redeeming qualities. He seems to get hit, and he seems to get hit hard. I will say the Braves bullpen has been doing a little bit of a better job than I expected so far this year, but Kyle Freeland is a terrific starter. Last year we saw him go 17-7 with a sub-3 ERA. Given the fact that he pitches in Coors Field, that is nothing short of sensational. He's had a little bit of command issues to start off the year. He's already had 5 walks in his first 2 starts in 11.2 innings, but I do like the way that he's able to limit that hard contact, which I think is going to be key, because with the Atlanta Braves, they've got a lot of guys that are hitting for contact, but not necessarily power right now. Dansby Swanson has been hitting nearly 350. Freddie Freeman is hitting over 400. Nick Markakis has been coming around with the bat. Ozzie Albies has been doing a good job of being able to get on base in recent games as well. So the Atlanta Braves seem to be getting something out of the bats, though. Josh Donaldson and Camargo have been off to a very slow start so far this year. But you take a look at the other side for the Colorado Rockies. They've been having a little bit of a tough time getting on base themselves. Trevor Story not necessarily doing a great job of being able to get on. A very surprising thing that I've noticed is that Nolan Arenado just has not been off to the start that you would expect him to. And the catcher spot in general for the Colorado Rockies hasn't necessarily yielded great results with Walters and Iannetta to this point, though I will say Iannetta did have that home run against the Rays a few days ago that lifted them to victory there. Charlie Blackmon has been doing an okay job at the top lineup, but I just don't see where they get the total so high on this game. We've been noticing that a lot of unders have been cashing at Coors Field the past 2 years, so I'm going to keep on riding that. I'm going to take this total under, and I am going to be on the Colorado Rockies in the spot, and I think they're going to be able to win this game convincingly. I already locked in the run line at plus 135. I'm seeing this run line ranging between plus 130 and plus 135. So that's already locked in, and I'm going to be on this total under right now, waiting to see if I can get more of a minus 110 juice on under 10.5 runs. 9:59, 9:60 on the betting rotation. It is the San Diego Padres in town to face off against the San Francisco Giants. Madison Bumgarner goes for the home Giants. Meanwhile, for the Padres, it is Eric Lauer. Total on this one I am seeing is 7. The juice is on the under between minus 115 and minus 120, which means if you like the over, you're getting either even money or minus 105. And if you want to take a shot here on the San Diego Padres, you're getting between plus 115 and plus 118. If you want to lay it with the San Francisco Giants, that is between minus 125 and minus 128. And this is a spot where I do look at the San Diego Padres. Right now I'm wait and see mode to see where things lie with this one, because I noticed that the Sharps have really been liking the San Diego Padres this year, but we know that a lot of people like to back Madison Bumgarner, who's right now 0-2 despite having a 1.38 ERA. He has been the textbook definition of a tough luck loser so far this year. Eric Lauer is not necessarily my favorite San Diego Padres starter, but I do like the way the bats are going for the Padres right now. They obviously had a little bit of a rough go of it against the Cardinals on Sunday, but all in all, Will Myers has been coming around with the bat. He's already hit a couple home runs. He's hitting nearly 300. Ian Kinsler off to a little bit of a rough start this year along with Famio Reyes, but the guy that I really really like for this team, and I think that he should be in the lineup every single day, is Hunter Renfroe. He's hitting over 300. He's already hit a trio of dingers for this team. He's been sensational. Manny Machado hitting right around 300 so far this year. Nothing great, but nothing awful. And you can say the same about Eric Hosmer. And then you take a look at the other side for the San Francisco Giants. They lost 3 of 4 when these two teams met up a couple weeks ago in San Diego. Brandon Belt has been able to hit 3 home runs, and Brandon Crawford doing a decent job of being able to get on base. But this is a team that just got shut out by the Tampa Bay Rays. It just seems like there aren't too many guys that are getting things going right now. Joe Panik, Evan Longoria, Eric Kratz, Gerardo Parra, and Kevin Pillar are all hitting 200 or worse for this team. That is absolutely awful. Buster Posey, I believe, is hitting under 200 as well. It's just been a rough start to the season for the Bats. I do think that San Francisco is going to be able to score a couple runs in this game. I think that Bumgarner does get touched up a little bit, so I'm going to play this game over, but it's just hard to not like the San Diego Padres and the plus price in this spot. So I'm going to be on the Padres, and I've already locked in this over, just waiting to see what number I get on the Padres, but over already in the bank and earning interest. 961, 962 on the bank rotation. The Chicago White Sox play host to the Tampa Bay Rays. Blake Snell goes on the bump for the Rays. Meanwhile, for the Chicago White Sox, it is Carlos Rodon. Total on this one, I am seeing is 7.5. This total shaded between minus 115 and minus 120 to the over. Also seeing a couple 8s out there as well. If you like the over of 8, you're going to be laying between minus 105 and even money on the over. If you like under 8, that is between minus 115 and minus 120. If you like under 7.5, that is between even money and minus 105. And if you like the Tampa Bay Rays, you're going to be laying between minus 142 and minus 150. If you like the Chicago White Sox, you're getting between plus 130 and plus 136. This is a spot where I've got to take a look at the Tampa Bay Rays and a little bit of a lower scoring game. I do like the way that Rodon has been pitching so far this year, but Blake Snell was a Cy Young winner in the American League for a reason. He got touched up in his first outing against the Houston Astros, but he came back and he had a very strong second start to the year, which you always like to see. And with Rodon, last time he pitched, the White Sox were able to get a nice 8-3 win over the Cleveland Indians. He is a very good bet-on pitcher, but with the White Sox, what you've really got to have concern with, the terrible bullpen that they trot out there. This bullpen has just been being torched time and time again. They just don't have any good arms whatsoever out there. Meanwhile, the Tampa Bay Rays might have the best bullpen out there in the bigs, and they're starting to hit right now. They were able to get a 3-0 win over the San Francisco Giants. G-Man Choi, whenever he's in the lineup, has been doing a great job. He's hitting 370. Kevin Kiermaier doing a much better job with the bat than he did last year. Yandy Diaz has been able to provide this team some pop as well. Austin Meadows, a good top of the lineup hitter. And then for the White Sox, they do have quite a few guys that are able to hit as well. Tim Anderson is hitting 560 so far this year. Yohan Moncada hitting over 400. He's got 2 dingers and 11 RBI. Jose Abreu has 3 home runs, 9 RBI. You got to really like the way that those guys are pitching. But then with the White Sox, what I'm noticing is that you've got a lot of feast or famine bats. I mentioned all those guys that are doing a terrific job for this team. Eloy Jimenez only hitting 226. Yonder Alonso only hitting $160. Polka has not gotten going. Adam Engel is batting below 200 as well. So it's very much a wide divide between the bats that are doing well and the bats that aren't, and I think that Blake Snell is going to be having a very quality outing in this one. Keep in mind that for the Rays, Joey Wendell's on the 10-day injured list, but that really doesn't affect the way that I handicap this one. I am all about the Tampa Bay Rays, and I am all about the under in this spot. Currently in wait-and-see mode on the under, trying to see if I can get decent juice on an 8, but I've already laid the price with the Tampa Bay Rays. 963, 964 on the batting rotation. The Oakland A's are in Baltimore to face off against the Orioles. Andrew, the cash burner Cashner, is on the mound for the Orioles. Meanwhile, for the swinging Oakland A's, it is Marco Estrada. The total on this one I am seeing is 9, shaded to the over, between minus 115 and minus 120. If you like the under, you're getting between minus 105 and even money. If you like the Oakland swinging A's, you're going to be laying between minus 138 and minus 145. If you want to take a shot on the Orioles, you're getting between plus 123 and plus 130. I know that the Orioles had a nice start to the year, but it looks like regression is really kicking in, and with the Oakland A's, they're coming off a game in which they were able to make a nice comeback against the Houston Astros, but they wound up losing that game 9-8. I think that they're going to be a little bit depleted in the bullpen because they had to use so many arms, because Mike Straight Fires just had a very, very bad start to that game. Well, what I will say is that Chris Davis is doing a great job of being able to provide some power. He's already got 5 home runs so far this year. Steven Piscotty has been doing a decent job in the middle of the lineup. I know that they've been a little bit banged up themselves with Matt Olson being on the injured list throughout the year, but Loreno at the bottom of the lineup has been starting to hit for this team. Marcus Semien hitting right around 300 as well, and Robbie Grossman doing a nice job of being able to get on base. He had 3 RBI yesterday. And you take a look at the Baltimore Orioles, they're a team that's able to hit quite well. Trey Boom Boom Mancini has 4 home runs and 9 RBI so far this year. Jonathan VR has been doing a nice job of raking as well. Chris Davis, as we all know, is a big giant waste of money, but they've got guys like Rio Ruiz and company. They're doing a decent job at the middle of the lineup. Ruiz has really seen his batting average dip recently, but Nunez at the DH spot is doing a decent job of being able to get on. Jonathan Sucre at the catcher spot is providing a little bit of something, but I think that the A's are going to be able to win this game, and they're going to be able to win this game convincingly. Andrew Kashner is not a guy that I want any part of. Marco Estrada is a decent pitcher. He sometimes has really good starts. Sometimes he gets roughed up. I am looking at the A's run line in this spot, though. Right now, I'm seeing it at plus 110. I'm right now in wait-and-see mode, trying to see if I can get more of a plus 115, plus 120 price. I know that sharps really do not like the A's, and let's face it, they always, for some reason, find value with the Orioles. I'm not sure why. Aside from when they play against the Yankees and the Red Sox, it's just one of those weird things where they say, oh, there's value here with the Orioles, but do you really want to bet the Orioles? I don't think so. I'm going to be on this game over just because the A's bullpen was heavily used yesterday, and I do think that the Baltimore Orioles, who gave up 15 runs themselves against the Yankees yesterday and had to go deep into their bullpen, both these teams are going to be a little bit depleted there. So right now, wait-and-see mode on these prices, but I'm going to be taking the A's run line, and I'm going to be taking this total over. Next up, we go to the city of Houston, as it is the Astros playing host to the New York Yankees. Masahiro Tanaka goes for the New York Yankees. Meanwhile, for the Astros, it is Justin Verlander. Total on this one is 7.5. You're getting between minus 110 and minus 115 on the over. If you like the under, you're getting between minus 105 and minus 110. Yankees are a pretty significant underdog in this spot. If you like the Yankees, you're getting between plus 140 and plus 145. If you want to lay it with the Astros, that is between minus 152 and minus 155. This is a spot where I do have to take the plus price with the Yankees. I know how badly banged up they are. We were talking to Jake Asman of SB Nation Radio about this a couple days ago. They've got Miguel Andujar injured. Giancarlo Stanton is hurt. We saw Troy Tulowitzki go down with an injury. Dylan Betances is still out of the lineup. CC Sabathia is out. Didi Gregorius is going to be out for a very long time. And for the Astros, you really don't have a lot of injuries aside from reliever Joe Smith, but we've noticed that Justin Verlander has had some great velocity so far this year, but he got touched up in his most recent start against the Texas Rangers, and Masahiro Tanaka, past 2 years, has actually been pitching quite well for this team, and despite all the injuries, the Yankees are getting some very good performances from some of their bats. Gary Sanchez, already 6 home runs and 9 RBIs in 9 games so far this year. DJ LeMahieu, batting over 400. I like the way that Greg Bird has been using his bat. Aaron Judge a couple days ago had a 2 home run game. Luke Voigt, not hitting necessarily for average, but he's hitting for power. Gleyber Torres is hitting 370. So you've still got a bunch of bats. Heck, Clint Frazier is hitting over 400 right now. It's just one of those things where the Yankees are so locked and loaded, they can overcome all these injuries, and they still have a good lineup out there. Meanwhile, for the Houston Astros, seems like the bats are finally starting to get online. They were able to hang a total of 15 runs over their last 2 games against the swinging Oakland A's, and then with the Astros, you've got George Springer at the top of the lineup that's starting to hit. He's now hitting 300. Jose Altuve seems to have righted the ship, so has Alex Bregman and Michael Brantley. All these guys were able to really emerge in that game on Sunday. Josh Reddick is now hitting nearly 300. And what you had to like as well was that Tony Kemp was able to hit a home run at the DH spot. He's really struggling. He got his first of the year. Obviously, those are all very encouraging signs, but we saw the Houston Astros at the beginning of the year just not be able to get any offense generated whatsoever. I think that there's going to be a little bit of a letdown spot after having so many runs the past 48 hours, and I think that the Yankees are really starting to find themselves. So for that reason, I'm going to take the plus price with the Yankees. I'm trying to see if this gets closer to about plus 150, but I've already locked in the under of 7.5 at minus 105. I think that the Yankees pitching, especially with their good bullpen, going to be able to hold up against this Astros lineup. We go to 967, 968 on the betting rotation. The city of Kansas City, as it is going to be the Mariners hitting the road to face off against the Royals. Homer Bailey goes for the Kansas City Royals. Felix Hernandez, the king, goes for the Seattle Mariners. If you like the Mariners, you're going to be laying between minus 123 and minus 130. And if you want to take the Kansas City Royals, and if you want to burn your money with Homer Bailey, you're going to be getting between plus 121 and plus 113. Total on this one I'm seeing is 9. I'm seeing 1-9 where the over and under is minus 110, but for the most part it's shaded over between minus 115 and minus 120. That means if you like the under, you're going to be getting between minus 105 and minus 110. If you're betting on Homer Bailey, I honestly have absolutely no idea what to tell you. I've already locked in this game over, and I am right now looking at the Mariners run line. Right now I'm seeing a Mariners run line of plus 125. If this ticks up any higher, I'm going to just take it right there. I'm hoping to get more of a 130 or 135. Felix Hernandez, obviously not the same pitcher that he once was, but in his first start of the year, he actually looked pretty good. He was able to get a win in that first start. He only had 4 strikeouts in that start, but he went 5.1 innings. He gave up only 1 run. He did not walk anyone. He pitches a little bit more to contact these days, and with the Kansas City Royals, they don't necessarily have a bunch of mashers on this lineup. You got Alex Gordon, who's had 2 home runs at 8 RBI so far. Whit Merrifield and Mondesi do a very good job of being able to get on base, but they generated just 1 run against a Detroit Tigers lineup that, let's face it, is not very good. Jorge Soler in the middle of the lineup, it's right around 260. He's got some pop. Ryan O'Hearn has a little bit as well, but you take a look at guys like Hunter Dozier and Lucas Duda. They're just not getting the job done at the bottom of the lineup for the Royals, and I think that it lends itself very favorably to a Mariners team that they have been absolutely mashing so far this year. Domingo Santana has 15 RBI and 4 home runs so far this year. Jay Brusso, he's not hitting for average. He's hitting for a power. He's got 10 RBI and 5 home runs so far this year. Tim Beckham has been doing a great job of giving this team some pop. Mitch Haniger does a little bit of everything. Malik Smith is doing a nice job with an OBP near 360. Edwin Encarnacion is back in the lineup. Navarez at the catcher spot has been great. Daniel Vogelbach was able to go deep twice against the Chicago White Sox yesterday, his 3rd and 4th of the year. This is a team that just has a murderer's row of weapons, and D. Gordon back in lineup as well after he was shaken up during that series against the White Sox as well. So everything just leads me to the Seattle Mariners in this spot. I think that they're going to put up a very crooked number on Homer Bailey, one of the worst starters out there in the big league. So already locked in the over, and I'm right now in wait-and-see mode on the price I get on the Mariners run line. And we wrap it up with 969, 970 on the betting rotation. The Milwaukee Brewers head to the West Coast to face off against the LA Angels. Trevor Cahill takes the mound for the LA Angels. Meanwhile, Ulysse Chacin goes for the Milwaukee Brewers. This line has really been fluctuating. It opened up with the Brewers as a pretty steady favorite, and in some spots the Brewers are laying as much as minus 115, but at the Westgate right now, it is the Brewers and Angels both at minus 105. In most spots, it's more like the Brewers around minus 110 and the Angels even money, but this line really fluctuating and going towards the Angels. Right now, the total across Vegas is between 8 and 8.5. There is that 1-8 in which the over is minus 120 and the under is even. At other shops, it is 8.5. The under is between minus 110 and minus 120 juice, which makes the over between even money and minus 110. So this line is fluctuating, and it's fluctuating it a lot, which has me in wait-and-see mode. But I am on the Brewers, and I'm looking at the under. I'm hoping that I can get a little bit more of a favorable juice number on under 8.5. Ulysse Chacin just seems to never get any love from bettors, but he just seems to always go out there and give the Brewers some quality starts. And this is a Brewers team that has started out 8-2 so far this year. They've got a bunch of guys that are doing a great job with the bats. Christian Yelich and Lorenzo Cain are both hitting over 360, and Yelich has 5 home runs and 13 RBI. You gotta like that for him. Orlando Arcia at the bottom of the lineup seems to be starting to get his back going. He got off to a really rough start to the year, and Mike Moustakas was struggling as well. We've noticed that Eric Thames is getting some more looks at first base as well, with Jesus Aguilar really struggling. He was able to hit 2 home runs in that series against the Cubs, and then Travis Shaw needs to get things going as well. But another thing that you have to really like about the Milwaukee Brewers is the fact that their bullpen still is very, very solid. They had to use Josh Hader for nearly 3 innings against the Cubs, so you got to think that he's going to be out of commission for this one, but they've been getting some strong starts recently, and I think that Chacin is going to be able to provide one as well. For the Angels, they really got their bats going against the Texas Rangers on Sunday. They were able to bust out for 7 runs, but all in all for the year, the Angels' bats just have been really, really sleepy, to say the least. Mike Trout is obviously still Mike Trout. He's been terrific for this team. He's got 5 home runs this year. And then something that you had to like to see for the Angels is that now batting .400 is their left fielder, Brian Goodwin. He was able to go deep for his first home run of the year. But Andrelton Simmons, Justin Bour, and guys like Tommy LaStella are all hitting below 200 for this team. Zach Kozar hitting 0.38. Peter Borges 0.56. That's absolutely awful. Daniel Fletcher doing a decent job of getting on base. He's hitting over 300, but Albert Pujols himself has been hitting 250-ish. He draws some walks, but just not a whole lot of redeeming qualities there. I just have to look at the Brewers and the under in this spot. I think the Brewers are going to be able to win something like a 5-2 style game. I just don't see the Angels being able to generate much offense. I think the Brewers are going to be able to continue their hot ways against a pitcher in Trevor Cahill that I will say is pretty decent. Like what I saw from him from his first start. And last year with the A's, all in all, he was a pretty solid pitcher that did a good job of being able to limit hard contact. He pitched to contact a little bit too much, but I do think that he's going to be able to limit the long balls that he has so far this year. And the Angels bullpen is decent, nothing great, nothing terrible as well. So for that reason, I am on the Brewers and I am on the under, just waiting for better numbers. And that will do it for a Monday edition of MLB Overtime Betting. A big thanks to Mo Egger of the ESPN affiliate out there in Cincinnati, ESPN 1530, for joining me in the second segment. And if you like what you're hearing from this fine podcast, you can subscribe on Apple iTunes, Google Play, Spotify, and Stitcher. If you ever have a question for the podcast, tweet it in at @unit_81. And let's make today a fun, successful, and profitable one, you guys. Thank you so much for tuning in.